Alrighty. So I think we're sitting on 34. I'm just going to quickly open again. For those that have come in from Grosvenor and aren't here often, I just want to give you a bit of a heads up as to exactly what this catalyst does. All right. We exist to make sense of AI together because we find that groups actually have got different experiences, have got different knowledge, have got different language, and bringing that all together helps us all as humankind to make sense of AI and how it's shaping and moving our world. It also helps us to be the front runners and start building a shared language, which I think is really important, so that we all start getting something that is common across various places. And literacy and discernment, I think, is really important. Understanding what it can do, what it can't do, where we need to hold it accountable, how we need to try and put the brakes on. Because if we don't start shaping it early, and I think, when I'm saying early, I think it's really infiltrating everywhere already. But, we need to start shaping it and taking cognizance of what's happening and how it's happening. Because if it's all happened, it's too late for us then to sit with our hands in our heads. So we want to really basically move ourselves and the people around us from awareness to an aligned, human-centric action type of movement. So I won't call us activists. Temba would probably have a heart attack if I did. But we're not quite there, but we're just trying to manage where this is going, how it's going, staying in the know, etc. And this morning we've got Darren Lang from Kepler+Co. And I'm going to let him do his own introductions and his own presentation. And I think, we usually have a conversation, everybody, so don't stop. If you've got questions, queries, pop them in the chat bar. Raise your hand if you want to have a chat. And then we've got our 5 founders here. I'm just going to whiz around quickly. They can all just tell you who they are. And they kind of like, when I'm not around, they're your point of call. So maybe, Temba, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, hi everyone, Temba Chakela, people guy in an AI world. I joined the Catalyst Collective largely from a leadership, culture change, and people angle. That's sort of my forte in this vortex of AI that we're trying to swim through whilst looking relaxed doing it.
Right, Mike. Miles, sorry. I'm reading my screen and I'm saying someone else's name. Sorry.
Don't worry. Hi, everyone. Miles Hopkins here. Really excited to be part of all of this. I think that, one of the things that we're continually looking at is how do we, create and deliver and maintain value for various groups of people, and how do we best utilize and integrate people and machines. So there's really a great book called Human Plus Machine, which I'll put a link into the chat just now. And I think that's what we're really excited about the collective for, is not one or the other, but how do we integrate humans and machines to work collectively and for the benefit of everybody.
Great. Charles?
Hi, everybody. Charles Startigel. Good to be here. With the people potential, focusing more on like the execution deliverable side of making things happen and making the interactions between human and machine happen in an orchestrated, informative way that actually allows AI to go and do what needs to get done within the confined parameters of what it is that you're looking for, and for it to be brought back to you to evaluate, to decide, and to make decisions on implementing. I think there's some concern around areas where people kind of like almost want to abdicate the human role, and it's just to make sure that we work together in a harmonious way to get done what needs to get done, but realizing at the same time that we can get a huge leg up from AI to help us to achieve our goals.
Great. And then Devon?
Hi guys, good morning. I'm keeping it very short because I'm going to start coughing if I continue to talk. I don't want to do that to you this morning. So the name is Devon Palbu. So very short and very sweet. I've got this conviction that we should be using technology and artificial intelligence as our team members, as opposed to just tools. Because tools you can pick up, you can put down, but team members are people that you work with, right? And I believe that the future of organizations is this coexistence between technology and people, and how do we work with each other to evolve together, as opposed to picking one up and putting one down. So very quickly, that's how I fit into the picture, and lovely to see people like Diane on the call again.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Devon. Who's not with us today is Sonia Blichnout. She's a complexity practitioner. And so now you understand who all the founders are, and if you need to get hold of any of them, you're welcome to. And then I'm going to hand over to Darren, who will introduce himself, his company, and then take us on a journey. Darren.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for having me. It's really good to meet all of you. Those faces who I do know, thank you. Tamba and Devon, good to see you guys again. And yeah, I appreciate you investing your time to be here, to have a discussion. Before anything, and before I introduce myself, I've got a few questions just to get everything started. But I want to make sure that you know this is not a sale at all. It's a conversation that we're going to have. Everybody here obviously has a business. Everybody here wants to add value. But from my side specifically, I need you to know this is not a sale. It's just a conversation. If it can add value to you, I've fulfilled my job. And that's really what matters. If I could summarize what we are going to be doing today, it would be actually what Devon just touched on, being that looking at not just AI, but any tool that you have as an assistant, working with it, rather than thinking that it's going to replace your, I guess displace is maybe something that's more provocative and that is happening, but really working with something. And then I'll give you a few practical examples and scenarios, how that actually works. And then I've got something cool to give you at the end. But yeah, let's have a great discussion here. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Please tell me when you can see it. Let's see. Can you see my slides? You got that? Is it sharing?
It's there now.
Yep.
Great.
It's up.
Fantastic. Okay, I can see you guys on the side here. So if it gets in the way, I'll just close it. If there are questions, Linda, I don't know if you want to keep Q&A till the end, or if you would like to just let anybody ask questions while I'm going. It doesn't bother me either way.
I think the best thing to do is for people just to pop questions in the chat box, and then right at the end we can open the discussion completely. But in the meantime, if we've got the questions in the chat box, so if something comes to mind and you're scared you're going to forget it, pop it into the chat box.
Great, thank you. All right, so I try to put the most as I used the word earlier, provocative title as possible. But we've just seen it based on our experience. I'm going to introduce myself now, so don't worry. But what I want to have the discussion with you about today is many HR executives, managers, leaders, whether you're in people functions, talent development, learning and development, or people ops, whatever it is, whether it's analytics or not. We all have these tools. We all have people around us. And have we actually done anything to drive a business forward and also to drive what we're doing forward? Or do we just sit on the sidelines and do we criticize? Are we actually able to shape the future, or are we only going to respond too late? And what do we do about it? And specifically, we're talking about today AI. We're talking about tools, because we saw software as a service, and we still have software as a service. Many of you still use software as a service tools, but we also understand that today there's artificial intelligence that is taking over or complementing it or supplementing it. People don't really know what to do with it. But you, as an HR leader, as an HR manager, you have the opportunity to look at yourself, look at the business and say, where do I stand today? And what can I do going forward in order to move the needle, so to speak, rather than sitting and only using what I can within my limitations. And we'll discuss what that means in just a moment. Before I introduce myself, 3 quick questions, if we can just run through. And if anybody can actually answer these now, this is obviously something that I do want to generate in the conversation, but just anybody. So one person for each. How many AI tools has your HR function piloted? And then you've put it to the side. Over the last, I said, 2 years, 24 months, whatever it is, and what actually killed them. So anybody, just one person, hand up, if we could just get the conversation going. Anyone? No one? Linda, you're on mute. I think you were saying something.
Yes. No, I see that. Timber, maybe you know of something that's happened which you can share with us. You've always got good stories.
Yeah. So I think there's just a general flood of tools. And the HR clients that I have, follow the hype cycle. I mean, it's a little bit like your kid's new cricket bat. It's great in the garden, and then they play with it, and then they have to go play a real match, and they realize that cricket is less about the cricket bat than the person that wields it. So the patience around sticking to a tool and making it work, I think, is a bit of a gap, and it's for various reasons. Sometimes it's capability, sometimes it's capacity. I'm also seeing non-IT people, so like HR, go head to head with their CIOs around the technology piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's many examples. Thanks, Timber. I like that analogy of the cricket bat is very, very true. And I think it's a very good thing to try a lot of AI tools, because you don't know what you don't know, and there's nothing wrong with shelving something that doesn't work. Now, in HR, I don't really want to go through this, because this really depends on the culture of the business. It's things that we see quite often with our clients. When something in HR goes wrong, and I'd say in the business with people, let's just say, do we first look at the process, or do we first look to who to hold accountable? Now, I don't think that's something that we need to discuss right now. And then the last one is, if you could see right now exactly where every person in your organization stands, their performance, their capabilities, any skills gaps, readiness to succeed someone, mobilize into a different role, be hired, whatever it is, would you actually want to know that? Or is it something like ignorance is bliss? Because a lot of people, it's funny, someone who I run with a lot, has got the same injury as me. I've got a stress fracture. I went for an MRI. I now know what's wrong, and I'm healing and I'm not running. However, the other person said, no, ignorance is bliss. I'd rather run with the pain and not know what's going on. Which is interesting. It's a different school of thought. It doesn't mean that he's wrong. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's got the right mindset. But that's the third question is, do we actually want to know what's going on with our people? Because there's too much effort. And do we want the evidence? Or do we just want to run a performance review, get the work done and finished? We see both angles in many organizations. You guys might be a little bit different. If anybody wants to comment on that third one, I'll wait about 5 seconds for someone just to shout out. Cool, I'm going to move on. All right. So I'm not going to go through this isn't about me, but just for you to understand why I'm here and why it matters. I decided to become a chartered accountant for my sins. And I wanted to become a chartered accountant because I thought it was the way to make money. Honestly, like I'm not going to come with some story of heroism. Like I thought that this is the way that I'm going to make money. I didn't know anything about impact. And when I was finishing my articles, I decided also to lecture. And that's where I drew my passion for seeing people transform. We had people who were getting, and students who were getting 40s and they needed to pass. And you had people who were getting 96% in accounts third and fourth year who needed and wanted rather, and 99%. So you had these different mindsets and different people. And that's where I knew I wanted to get into the game. And so I went into my first job, and I didn't enjoy it very much. I was doing research behind a desk. And then shortly after, I went into a business and co-founded part of the business with, and that's where I met Darren. That was in an Excel training business. And that's where my understanding and knowledge of learning and development really spawned. And what we saw over time was that the industry didn't just want learning and development. They wanted to understand impact. And so I sold out of that business in 2018, and I started my own learning business where we distributed and developed learning systems. And following that, our clients started to demand the reason that learning happened. So if we were giving you 1,000 courses in Excel 101, which is basic Excel, what's the reason behind it? Do people actually need Excel 101, or do 50 of them need the advanced one? And what's the reason to have targeted learning? The answer was skills, capabilities, the value that people were bringing to the organization. And that grew into Kepler, and Kepler became a skills intelligence system that creates, and still to this day creates, frameworks, skills-based frameworks, globally recognized skills frameworks for an organization very quickly, but with rigor, and also analyzes those skills in various ways, gives you the analytics, and also allows you to run targeted learning activities all in one space at a more affordable rate than anything else. But then the market started to demand from us performance management and now payroll. That's coming next. But we also saw the advent of artificial intelligence, and that's really when things started to get all interesting, because we had to give our clients, well, we actually wanted to give our clients a better way to understand and interpret the data that they actually had, because our clients have all this data scattered around the organization. Kepler consolidated it, but still, you had to go, when it comes to software as a service, you still have to be quite proactive yourself as an HR manager, right? And you have to go draw the data, you have to ask for it, you have to request it, you have to put it together, and you have to draw your own conclusions. And it's fun sometimes, because doing your own work is really what leads to happiness and good results. But with AI, why can't we use it, as Devon said, as an assistant? Why can't we use it as a friend in the business who is very intelligent, as long as they're prompted properly? And that's really what we're delivering to the market now, is a very affordable, highly reliable way to do your HR work, if I can make it very simple. Anyway, enough about me. Let's get into it. Okay, so the honest problem, where does HR stand today? Now, there are obviously, in any capacity, in any title, in any function within a business, there are going to be structural problems. We've just identified 3 for today, because otherwise we'd be sitting here the whole day. But if we're able to solve something perhaps together, that will be a beautiful thing. So let's go through ones that we've uncovered over time. I can guarantee you may argue with these. And before I even begin, please know, I know very little in relation to what I should know. I'm learning every day. I want to learn from you. If you disagree with something that I say, please tell me. I want to learn. I want to understand. So anything that I do share with you is based on data, research, our clients, conversations that we've had with multiple people, but it doesn't mean that it's 100% correct. You guys have a lot more experience in HR than I do, perhaps. So if there is anything, please, be devil's advocates, and let's stress test everything. Okay, so 3 structural failures that we've come across. Number 1 is invisibility. So I'm going to just sum it up as data is invisible. You've got it all. It's somewhere. It's sitting there. You've got, as we used to call it, untapped potential also in the business, or you've got what you think you're overshooting the potential. People may be, you may think that they're better than what they actually are. So you've got this data, but it's invisible. You don't know where to get it. As I said, it's a black box, and everything's, you're managing it blind. So just by raise of hands, have any of you felt this? Be honest. There's no one's going to get criticized for this, but even in my business, I felt this, where we just don't know what's going on. We've got people, we've got this data. I don't know how to draw it. I don't know how to extrapolate. I can't make decisions based on it. So that was number 1. The next thing was being reactive. So every single time something happened, it was after the fact that we reacted. So someone resigns. After the fact, I'm like, oh, we could have actually prevented that had we known. Or if someone needs a promotion, like only after the fact, when they come and they're like, guys, I'm leaving, I'm threatening to leave. And then, only after the fact. And then also with PIPs, that's another thing, with performance improvement plans, like only after the fact, a few months later. And you'll see there's a live example. These are things that actually our clients have suffered with, have struggled with, and are struggling with. Even internally at our business, and we run this, we do this. We even struggled with this in a huge, huge way, of being so reactive. So everything's reactive. There's no, if I can call it proactivity, I don't think that that's a word. I know Temba will correct me later for my lack of vocabulary, but how can we have something that's more proactive? How can we become more proactive in nature? Because imagine a risk pops up today that we could then conclude on and prevent. It would be 4 months down the line. At least we know about it, and we've got the data to act on it. That would be a beautiful thing, right? Okay, and then the last thing, accountability without authority. So we see it often is that, and it's a sad reality, that HR, it's a prestige type of title, yet they don't have a seat at the table often. They're held accountable. They're given complex tasks. They don't have budget because they have to go and nag the CFO. I mean, we've had these conversations with many of you many times. Who of you feel that also sometimes, that you just don't have a seat at the table? I think HR has more of a seat at a table than learning and development. That's what we used to see, at least, and understand. But there's a huge amount of pressure on HR. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So just raise your hands if you also feel like that sometimes, at least. I don't know if you do. I see it. All right, a few hands. Okay, not everybody. I guess that's a good thing. Or you don't want anybody to see this after the fact. No, I'm joking. It's cool. Your board won't see it. Okay, fantastic. Now, the next thing, as I said, everything's based on data. I never ever like to make references without data. I'll send you the slides afterwards if you want. But we all know these things. I'm just going to, can you see? Yeah, zoomed in for you. So if someone leaves and you have to replace them, the annuals and the average obviously is 150%. That's usually what they say, but anywhere from 50% to 2 times the amounts that it costs you to have them, not just their salary, but anything else to retrain them, your time invested. So imagine if you could spot that risk of a leaver early. Imagine if you could spot that, but also knowing that people leave. One of the biggest reasons, top 5 reasons people leave an organization is because they feel that they weren't given the opportunity to develop. They were, who cares about performance management for now? Who cares about whether payroll was done? Who cares about whether there was a leave management system and you got it right or whatever it is? What about just knowing what people's value is and how you can help them develop for the future? So that's one of the biggest reasons people leave. And then also when there's like complexity and processes that are way above their scope. Another thing, going back to performance, is not having conversations. So there's performance criteria set for the year. So we've got a client where they do annual performance reviews. So you're only having a performance review at the end of the year when things are happening, which is completely reactive. And during the year, they're not really interacting because they're so busy. Things like that can prevent people from leaving, or it can actually help you identify the talent that's lacking or the gaps in the business. Okay. Just to reiterate, 75% of voluntary exits are considered preventable. $1 trillion annual cost of voluntary turnover to US businesses alone. And then 213% of annual salary to replace a senior leader who leaves. Okay, so that correlates pretty well with this over here, but it's actually correlates. It's a little bit higher, which is very, very interesting. But it makes sense that it's a senior leader. And how do you? Even if someone leaves, we can mitigate that risk by having a proper succession plan, right? But how do we know who to put into the succession plan? How do we know what gaps there are? How do we know what skills and the capability within the business there are? And also when we're hiring or when we're mobilizing, what talent do we already have within the business? We've got so many people in the business. We don't have this data, or we do have this data, but we don't know what to do with it. So we should use that properly. So those were just a few challenges that we found with our clients. And then it's going to lead us, obviously, to the next part is when it comes to artificial intelligence, raise your hands, actually in the chat, and just be honest. I promise you, I don't judge. We run these sessions also for Standard Bank with Henley Business School. So Devon, you know about them. What I'd like to know from you is in the chat, what's the number one thing that you use AI for today? Your ChatGPT, your Claude, your whatever, your Gemini, whatever you're using. What are you using it primarily for? Or you can list 3 things if you want. Just quickly throw it into the chat. Okay, dashboards. Am I pronouncing Jake? I can't even pronounce that. Jacomine, yes. Jacomine. All right. I swear that was going to be my first. And I was like, don't make a fool of yourself, Darren.
Go with your gut.
Okay, cool. Terry to collate data and summarize data, research, Karina, thought leadership, automation. Asbook, thinking partner. Great, thinking partner. I love that. You get to criticize what you say, because AI inevitably is there to actually agree with you. If you use any engine that actually agrees with you, it's like, you're amazing. There's a guy on Instagram and TikTok who, I don't know if you've seen him, he speaks to OpenAI, and it's in fact Sam Altman commented on one of his videos because I think Sam Altman was getting bothered with him, like really irritated. But he'll speak to AI. It will agree with whatever you say, right? Unless you prompt it properly. So we'll get into that in just a moment. Okay, Darren, productivity planning, drafting emails to coaching clients. analyzing information, salary, benchmarking, scheduling, and more. Okay. Developing contextualized products, time saver, productivity, benchmarking. Karen, great. Charles, okay, Charles, you got a lot there. Marketing strategy, activation, execute, thought, leadership. Brilliant. These answers, actually, I wish I could take these. I won't, but I wish I could take these answers and show them to some of the other groups that we speak to, because most people use AI for rudimentary tasks like writing an email, helping me with a proposal, doing my kids' homework. They don't actually understand what AI can do. There's so much that it can do, but at the same time, there's also risks, right, with using any AI tool. Okay, so back to it now and that's what I put here. When AI stops reporting and starts executing, when AI is agentic in nature and can execute tasks, becomes a beautiful thing, as long as it's done properly, right? As long as it's done properly. It's all very well that all of us today could go to Claude and we could ask AI to create a presentation for us. But are you actually prompting it correctly? Are you giving it the right information that you need in order for it to produce an output that is aligned with your thinking? And are you looking at the outputs and are you criticizing it and going back? And those are the types of skills that any of us need, right? Because we can't just blindly rely on AI. And you can see when someone's blindly relied on AI. You can see it in their work. You can see it in, if someone ever sends you an email and you see that M dash, or you see American spelling coming from a South African or from a Brit, you know that they've used AI. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong. But it's actually quite sad how people don't read what the output is. Just take a few minutes and just read, right? Okay. So what we saw over time is that the industry built more dashboards, but the problem got worse. So it's all very well that you as HR go to your supplier, being us or a learning system, or internally to your IT department, and you say, I need a Power BI dashboard that reports on boom, 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 boom. I want to know what the skill gaps are. Or I want to know how many people have completed their performance management, how many of them are below expectations, how many are above expectations, how many of them are in disagreement with their manager, and how many of them are, and as a result, what's the compensation going to be for each person regarding their bonuses, right? So it's all very well that you've built these dashboards, but the problem is that it just created more data for you. It created, it just created more complexity. You had to now interpret more. You had to do more work. And then the plugin breaks. And then you have to draw another CSV, and then you put it back into AI to correlate it for you. You're not sure whether it's right or wrong. And then you're drawing conclusions which are wrong. And then you have an argument. It becomes an issue, right? And as we put over here, action still depends on capacity you don't have. So what we find is that AI, I shouldn't say this maybe. I might get, Devon's definitely going to shout at me. But what we've seen is sometimes artificial intelligence has actually caused more work for people. It hasn't actually helped with productivity. Okay, it hasn't actually helped. But that doesn't mean that it's bad. It means maybe that it's being used in the wrong way. All right. The next thing is the agent approach. And maybe what I should do is I should change the agent approach to assistant, co-worker, as we spoke about. Okay. Sensors, surfaces, executes your processes, brings light to things. It's proactive in nature. Okay, it's proactive. Performance, leave, payroll, learning, all that type of stuff. Every action explainable and auditable. So if you make a decision, you've got the evidence. You've got it right there. No one can argue with you. Or they can argue with you, but you can have a very constructive debate to say, this is the reason why I demoted that person. This is the reason why I want to promote these people. This is the reason why I need to hire a new sales team in this region. I've got data. It's evidence-backed. Okay. And then over here, HR leaders freed for the work only humans can do at this stage. There are certain things that I will take over. Like, let's just put it out there. But you're freed. Your time is freed to do what actually matters instead of you doing manual work. So hands up if you feel there's a lot of manual work that time could be saved on, and that complexity could completely be diminished or actually at least mitigated. So just by show of hands. Okay. Charles is my best customer today, I swear. Dig you, Charles. Okay, Yakumin, you also agree with that. Okay. I'm only seeing certain people on the little strip of view over here. So please forgive me if I'm not picking on you or saying your name.
Karen put up her real hand.
I beg your pardon?
we go, Darren.
Thanks, Linda.
Put up my human hand, not my
Your human
AI.
hand, yes, not your AR artificial hand. I like that. All right. So the thing is, it's not about more. It's about doing it properly, I guess. I don't want to say less, but less can become more when artificial intelligence is used correctly. Okay, now check it this. This is cool. Okay, so I crossed his name out so that we don't see who it is. Okay, because I'm a good HR person. I hope there's nothing here that gives it away. But anyway, okay, just read this. I'll read it, see if you can't see it. I built a 20-person AR HR team using Claude, and I'm giving it away for free. Most companies treat hiring like a task, but the real leverage is building a full AR hiring system. So I created a structured HR team powered by Claude. Recruiting, interview and selection, onboarding, HR ops, retention, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it sounds amazing, this. So this is cool. Each agent has one job. Boom, 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 boom. 20 roles working together, all autonomous. This is why most hiring breaks. Anyway, this person, and I'm sure they're very good. They're not in HR. They don't have that experience. I think they're like a few years out of university, which is fine. Not to take anything away from them. I don't believe in the thing of wet behind the ears. I think it's, young people can be much better than experienced people. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to park that. However, what he's doing is he's saying, I built a system, if I can use this word, screw whatever you're doing or whatever your tools are, I've got the fix. And if you want it, comment and then we'll do it. And then he posted this picture, which is pretty cool. And I'm sure it works very nicely. So your Claude AR HR team. Okay. It's all there. As you can see, HR ops, retention. It does, it's the 20 agents. It does everything, right? Which I like. I think this is a very, very good use of HR. Okay. But what are the problems here? So anyone, what are the issues immediately that come to surface, but also the good? So we can speak about the good and the bad. It's not just something to criticize, because I do believe in this. There is space for this. But what's the good and the bad here? Darren.
I don't see any reference to human in the loop where that's necessary.
Nice. Okay, human in the loop, absolutely. 100%. Okay.
Timber doesn't like it because it's a pyramid.
Pyramid scheme, eh? Karen?
And Darren, it's not contextualized for the client, as you said.
Nice. Okay, cool. I like that. I didn't even think of that. That's so, it's not specific enough. Brilliant. So human in the loop would also. Sorry, Linda.
Janet says ethics. There's no.
Sorry, I'm not reading the chat. So let me go to the chat. Ethics, absolutely, 100%. We'll get overwhelmed, absolutely. So I'll tell you, we actually built a sales team using Nathan, N8N. You should actually look at it. A few of you will know it. It works. I'll tell you, it works. But at this stage, you do need a human in the loop. So there are ways we've built a human in the loop. I'll actually show it to you one day. It's actually very, very cool. It works beautifully. But you can't run an enterprise function on that. I would never give Nathan to an enterprise. I wouldn't give it to a business over 50 people, let alone enterprise, right? And you guys are enterprise experts. You've been in enterprise. You're much more enterprise experts than I am, but I would never, ever put that into an enterprise. It's complex. But other issues that we picked up also, right? Check out HR leaders. These are your peers, I'm saying, your peers. So she commented HR, she wants it. So someone's interested, but check over here. You are not the customer if you're getting something for free. You're the product. So, that's not really it. Okay. But check over here, HR. But I'm especially curious how sensitive HR data is handled. Using AI to control the entire hiring process is insane. First, anyway. So, and then you'll see the comments just get, it's shared, right? But a lot of people picked up data. And that's very interesting. And that's actually how I met Linda, because it all came down to running sovereign data and ring fencing the data that it doesn't train models. If you're taking your people data and you're just plugging it into your LLM, you don't know where that data is going. You don't know if that's going to come out. You have no idea, but you're plugging in sensitive data. So if I put in my salary, Linda's salary, Devon and Temba, and I'm doing comparisons, and then I put in their skills data and I'm just plugging it into Claude, it's not ring fenced. So having that data in a secure location, like for example, Amazon, like Bedrock, for example, we use Bedrock in one of our servers, and just ring fencing it. That's something that's very, very important. But it doesn't mean that this doesn't have a place to play, because this could actually assist you. And this, as Devon said, this could be your assistant, but have it supplementing or complementing rather your other processes and your systems, and speak to RT to make it happen. So we're seeing a lot of this happening. We're seeing a hell of a lot of it where it's vibe coding. Okay, so what's your take on vibe coding? Anybody, have any of you, I mean, I've vibe coded before. All of you, I'm sure, have tried and taken a bit of a stab at vibe coding your own system. But what we see often is, oh, I'll just build I'll build my own HR system on Lovable and I'll deploy it. Cool. You might be able to if you've got a good team, but it's quite difficult. It's quite difficult. So you got to just be careful when you hear that's the solution. Tamba.
An interesting point on vibe coding. I phoned one of my previous victims, a senior developer in the business that I used to be an HR exec for, and I asked him what he feels about vibe coding, and he's like, "Look, if you're trying to get to a point quickly with fairly junior resources, it's great. Where it falls apart is what people forget about software or code is that it continuously needs to be revisited. Now, if you don't know what you've written or in the code, it's like taking somebody else's full Moleskine notebook and trying to look for a specific answer to a question. And you're going to page through this thing because you don't know where it is. But if you give it to the owner, they probably have a system that goes, I have dates in the top left-hand field. I use this color for that and this color for that, and they can very, very quickly get to issues. So I think it's that whole thing that vibe coding is what vibe coding is. So my 14-year-old uses it for vibes and ambiance, but for serious tasks, he wants to get into the guts himself. And I thought about that over the weekend, and it reaffirms the fact that you have to know what you're doing, and more importantly, you have to be able to check what's been done, so that you can confirm that it's correct.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not here to say, because I'm not a, what do you call, like a futurist. Nassim Taleb said, what did he say? Never take predictions or forecasts from someone who wears a suit. I'm not wearing a suit today, but I'm definitely no futurist, and I should never make predictions. So what I am saying, though, is in the future, there will be a place where people will be able to vibe code and probably create their own system. So software as a service has to be incredibly careful. So, I mean, I'll tell you at a later stage what we've done and what we believe is the right way to combat that, while bringing huge value to clients. But you as an HR head, is it really your job to go and manage a system and build a system? As Temba said, you're going to have to maintain that system, and RT and you may not be able to do that. You may not have the capacity to do so, but it does work. There are instances where we've seen it, and it has worked. So I think it's just about knowing your business, knowing your people, and what's right for you. Okay, so what we believe for all organizations, no matter what the tool is, no matter who it is, and as an HR leader, we don't get enough questions on security and data integrity. They outsource it to RT. We'd love it if there was more of a conversation with HR about data and security, because then you really see that they care. Not that they care, they know what they're talking about, and they care about the data, they care about the people, right? Not to say that you don't care about the people if you don't ask these questions, but what we see is that it's outsourced to RT and to infrastructure, and it's their problem. And yes, they do have certain frameworks that the supplier has to fit in with, but on an ongoing basis, making sure that there is governance of the data, okay? And then, as you picked up now, I think, Darren, you said it, human in the loop, always. We at least believe human in the loop always. AI will do many, many things that humans will do. So yes, it will replace certain tasks, but there's going to be more displacement. But that's a separate discussion, separate argument for us to have. But human in the loop, always. There's nothing wrong with having I don't think companies understand, having a human just to confirm something and sign it off is perfect. Like, Performance management's a very good example. We know performance management is usually a grudge, right? Because when I say grudge, it's painful to set up. It takes time. So we've combated that with a very easy way to do it. More about that another time. But the reason I'm telling you this is that you can't run performance unless someone actually confirms and reviews it and signs it off. Because imagine me just setting a KPI based on what the AI told me. I don't review it, I don't check it, I don't sign it off. And then I send it to Linda, and then Linda's like, wait a second, I didn't have a conversation with you. I can't meet these targets. So it's a very weird example of that, but human in the loop is very, very important. Okay. And then no black box. Okay. Having the data, having evidence for everything that you do, asking the AI to say, create a PDF for me explaining why I'm going to add Darren to my succession plan rather than Timber. Okay. Give me the data so when I go to Exco, I can actually prove what I'm doing. Another just strange example, but you get what I'm saying. Any questions so far, comments before I move on to the last part? All right, I'm not going to go into too much detail. We've spoken about data. I only put you can call it papaya, poppy act, whatever you want to call it. But we speak about GDPR, poppy, any data sovereignty, if I pronounce that correctly. But there's massive fines for this. And it's very, very important, very, very important that you understand the legal exposure too, especially when you're using artificial intelligence with the data that you have. It's sensitive data at the end of the day. It's very, very sensitive. So you just got to be careful. However, I was worried about this slide because sometimes this actually creates it causes people not to act because it's like, I'd rather not do anything. One of the biggest things that we've seen, in fact, Jordan Peterson, I think he brought this up in a lecture that he once ran. He said, people in the workplace don't want to be seen. They'd rather not put their hand up. They don't want to be seen. They want to do their work, but they don't want to be known. They don't want management to actually know who they are. You get some people who are like, I'm doing my work, I want to be known. But the vast majority of people don't want to be known, right? So as a result, they don't want egg on their face when they decide to choose a system. They don't want egg on their face when it comes to using artificial intelligence. I would argue and say rather act. Okay. Rather act. But just make sure that it's governed. Make sure that you've got your data. Make sure that you've done it correctly. Okay. So it's just something extra. But this doesn't mean that you must be afraid. You must be penalized for doing the right thing. In other words, Linda.
Yeah, so this is an interesting topic because at the moment King 5 has come out with the latest rules on AI, and they're quite stringent, as to who's held accountable if this escapes out of your control. So it's really important that people take notice of this. And then I'm just punting for our inspiration session at the end of this month. This is one of the topics we cover because it is really very I won't say controversial, but it's very appropriate for where we are at with AI. Who is going to be held accountable when everything goes wrong? So, just let everybody know it's really important.
Thank you, Linda. Absolutely. And also the reference to the King Code. They're so strict with it, especially big businesses. But as a result, don't use it as something to prevent you from taking action and actually doing things and having fun. It must be fun, right? Okay. So what we've seen is that the shift is already underway. And I put South Africa as part of the African continent. I should have maybe done this on a global scale, but South Africa leads the continent on AI adoption. Okay. And CHROs are leading within organizations. They actually are. And there's stats, there's proof of it. Okay. So 64% of African employees report using AI at work in the past year. Okay, cool. So use. They know what it is. I mean, that's pretty, it's neither here nor there. 92% of CHROs expect AI to be further integrated into the workforce this year. Pretty obvious. And 73% of HR directors and above had already adopted AI by 2025 ahead of every other level, which means that it's being used. What we just want to do is make sure that it's used properly. Make sure that it's used as your buddy, as your assistant, right? Not just there to replace your thinking, not there just to replace your tasks. Okay, there's nothing wrong with relying on it. Okay, the last thing, helping the human. So I don't want to go through these in too much detail. We've been through most of them, but real scenarios, practical insights, and then how we can go through them. Okay, I put this slide in as the first, like a precursor in a way, just because it comes up so often. We kind of discussed this, and it's quite detailed. So I'll send you the slides afterwards because I wanted it to be think, prompt, critique, decide. It's very important that you know how to prompt the engine. And there are various ways. We don't have to go into the different ways of doing it, but it's your prompting is critical. It's critical that you know how to prompt it, whether you're using a system like ours or Workday or Bamboo HR, Harbob, whatever you're using, and they've got their AI, whatever, if they use a bot or whatever it is, know how to ask it things, know what to say to it, and look at the output then and criticize it. There's nothing wrong with you arguing with it, and you can ask it to be your devil's advocate. There's nothing wrong with that, and criticize what I'm saying. And then it'll give you good critique, and then you can build something from that. Okay, so I don't want to go through this at all in detail, but just the big thing over here is blind trust is not a strategy. Okay, don't rely on it blindly, especially if you're using people data and you're making decisions. Because if you go to someone and you say, well, I chose this person over you because, and you give the reason that AI gave you without you actually verifying it, that's a problem. Just make sure that the data is there. Okay, not difficult things to do. All right. And then, it hallucinates is a big thing. Just do remember that. AI still does hallucinate, but it's getting pretty damn good. Like for example, if you look at something from a legal standpoint, Claude at this stage, our legal team will argue that Claude is 95% as good as probably someone with experience, an experienced attorney, maybe 10 to 15 years experience. Like they say, the output's insanely good if you prompt it properly. Okay, so all right, some real life scenarios. Okay, so here are a few, and I think you can draw your own too. A manager senses something is wrong for 6 months, and these are scenarios of clients of ours. No data to act on, no structured process to start. The employee leaves for a competitor or employees, or the opposite, and you derail the PIP process. Okay, I put that in. We haven't actually had clients where it's derailed. We had that internally. Okay, that's my own journey in our own business when we already had our system before we had AI to actually help us draw conclusions and be proactive before. So when we just had it as a software as a service, but we should be the experts, right? I mean, we're using the system, and they say you should eat your own breakfast, but were we actually? So okay, here's the cost, but with AI in the process, the performance signal surfaces early. So you prompt it early. It sends it to your teams. It sends it to your emails. Whatever it is, you come into the system. It prompts you. It says there's a risk. There's a risk that you're not going to finish the development cycle in your product team because there's an argument, or people are not at work, or there's a skill gap. We believe there's a skill gap. You're not going to be able to deploy the right people on the project. It's going to be delayed. Whatever it is, here's an opportunity for you to fix it. Okay.
Darren?
Yes.
Darren, I'm just quite cognizant of time. So we've got about 17 minutes left. So, and we still want to ask some questions. Sorry, 7 minutes left. So maybe you just want to
I'm done.
Sort of absolutely. Like summarize and wrap up.
Yes, soon. Yes, absolutely. I wish I had more time with you guys, like a whole day, because I'd get into like more of the detail, nitty gritty of how we can actually apply it more, which I think is something that's valuable. But perhaps, Linda, you could set up a session. Not me, but sure. I think like Darren would be a very, very good guy to take you through that. We've had quite a few conversations. And then, there was a capability example, but I'll send you the slides. I'm not going to read through it now. But just understanding what you can do with AI, that it prompts you, it brings things to the surface, it gives you that evidence. Use your AI properly. Give it the data, making sure that it's ring-fenced, or anonymize the data. Just make sure that whatever you do, it's evidence-backed. Make sure that whatever you do, you're using it based on empirics. It's got the data, all right. And AI can help you do that. No longer do you need to go and you don't have to be an Excel expert anymore. You don't. You can get AI to help you with that. So use it, embrace it, okay? And just make sure, as I said before, that it's governed correctly. Okay, I reiterated on the accountability loop, which I'm not going to go through again. And then, yeah, we've spoken about all of this. So one thing is I put here human-led. It must be human-led, but I said this will change. It doesn't mean that it's going to change drastically and that humans won't be involved in the loop at all. Humans will be involved in the loop. And we've got many examples to prove that now after 3-4 years of adoption, but it will change over time. The form will change of how humans are involved. Okay. Make sure that you can measure the impact too. And then lastly, everybody, I was going to send you to I wanted to give you value. The biggest thing for us is we just want to chase impact. That's the biggest thing for us. So if I'm able to give you something that helps you, great. If not, cool. We learn from the experience. So what I still want to give you is we're launching HR Studio soon, which just to show you, and it's just something cool. Sorry, I promise you I'm going to be as quick as possible. So HR Studio is something that allows you to do anything in HR. So if I want to say, if I want to approve leave, it builds it like your LLM. So it works like an LLM, and you can use your technology exactly like an LLM. So the point is that you put in your prompt, it builds the tech for you. You can run anything on it. So that's coming soon. And what I wanted to do is make sure that all of you get free access to it for at least 2 months. Not a trial, but access to actually use it, try it. We'll give you all the governance and show you that it's all ring fenced. But just for you to try it, use it. If it works, great. We can have a chat. If not, tell us why so we can learn from it. So that's number one, just for being here, just to give you that. But then also the other gift that we want to give to you, if you want it, is a diagnostic, which just shows where do you stand, or your team, if you want, where do you stand today in this area with regards to those types of AI type of collaboration within your team, the use, the execution, competency, anything to do with that within your actual realm, your title. So having a diagnostic, giving you a score and seeing how that is, and that would run on our current system, which is Kepler. So you can choose whichever one you want. I'm happy to give you either. HR Studio is only going to launch in the next 2 months, but you'll obviously it's closed off literally for this group. We're not going to just open it up. It's exclusive. Linda and I discussed that it's exclusive. So I'm happy to do 2 months. If you need 3 months, cool. I'm absolutely happy with that. Whatever it is that can at least give you value and impact. But please let Linda know what you want. My team's open to whatever it is. Temba's giving me the eyes there. So I'm going to ask you guys to let me know if you have any questions. No, Temba, you were just giving me the side, as my children say, the bombastic side eye.
Oh, so Darren, what I'll do is I will share with you the email addresses of the people that were here, so that you can reach out to them as well and give them the access to it.
Perfect. We will not stalk you. It'll come from me personally. So yeah, I'll make sure that it's not irritating. We'll send it to you to sign up for, and then you'll just respond to me. I'll make it easy. All right.
I think it's important though that the people who were at the session, you're aware of it, and do you all give consent to get that? If you don't, then I think it's probably easier to say, if you don't, let me know. Oh, it's a Chucky vision, Darren. His side eye.
That's what Temba said. Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. Cool. So there's 2 things you're gonna leave us with is the access to the assessment session, and then we're going to work together, you and I, on getting all of the people on board here to get the free offer. Cool.
Perfect.
I think that's brilliant.
Any questions or anything maybe that I didn't touch on that you wanted to debate, or just before I go? It's a pleasure, Yakumin. Thank you, Devon. Pleasure, Karen. Sorry, I called you Karen.
Sorry, Darren, based on the lack of time, maybe once your email comes through, we can have that conversation with you on that platform.
Darren. Thank you, Diane. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Esmos.
Thanks, Karina. And also, thank you for your time. Like, you invested time in me today, so I appreciate that fundamentally. Thank you.
Yeah. Insights at speed, hey?
I hope so. I feel like I didn't give you enough. So if there's anything that does come up, and then Linda, I'll send you the slides to disseminate to everybody.
Yeah, great. And we will have a recording as always. Charles might just want to close for us. And thank you very much, Darren. We really appreciated your time this morning. And I absolutely love your branding.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Been very inspiring to see that little picture behind you. It's very cool. Like it. Okay, so we just want to thank you everybody for your time and attendance. Thank you, Darren, particularly for your time and for taking us through that thinking. I think it is a very exciting topic. I think it is a very stressful topic as well at times. And it's like probably the best approach that I would want to encourage you to do is to just start having a conversation, if nothing else, around this topic. Because I think the conversation will help you understand how ready you are to move forward and how ready those around you that have walked the road a bit longer than you are able to reach out and give you a hand to pull you up. So I think it's a new topic. It's people are grappling with it across the board, but I think it ties in and segues very nicely with our next session that we're going to be having on the 26th of June, where we're going to be talking about accountability. And I think accountability is a huge one. I think Darren touched on that in his closing slides as well. You really need to make sure that you understand that you have not only skin in the game, but you're accountable for the decisions and actions that you take, and particularly leadership as well. I think need to be encouraged to rise up and to actually be part of the decision-making progress and not just to leave it to others. So with that, we would really like to see you all again on the 26th of June, Friday the 26th of June at 8:30, where we'll be going through the analogy of what do you do when you get to a fork in the road. The number one answer always is you need to take it, but you need to understand which fork you need to take and the consequences and responsibilities that come with taking that fork. So we'd like to talk around owning it, clarifying it, saying it, sharing it, completing it, and learning from it, and then repairing it if there's repair that needs to be made. So the sooner you take the fork, is the way that I think of it, is the sooner you realize whether you need to turn around and go back or whether you need to take the next fork in a different direction. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the 26th of June. Linda?
Yeah, thanks everybody. It was really nice seeing you all. Thanks for making the effort. It was cold and miserable this morning, so thank you so much, everybody. It was great.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Darren.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Ciao.
Thank you so much, guys. Cheers,
Cheers,
Darren.
everybody.